Hello, people. It's been a while. I'm still alive. Um, this isn't really a health update. I'm still having some issues. Things have gotten significantly better. I had a cyst removed from my back, and I'm feeling better after that. But that's not what this video is about. Just know that for now, I don't know. I don't think I have cancer. I still am having these weird issues where I can't sleep on my right side. But that's not what this is about. This is about feminism. There are a lot of aspects to feminism. It's a complex topic, and I think I bring a different perspective than most people. Most people are either totally in line with feminism, as all the principles of feminism, and most other people are totally opposed to feminism. I think I have kind of a somewhat nuanced take on it. So I'll give you the reasons why I believe in it and the reasons why I think it's flawed. So first of all, reasons to believe in it. Well, I do believe women have essentially the same intellectual capacity as men do. I think they can understand the same advanced level concepts. I'm not really sure. I can't be honest if I could tell you that I know that women can understand, math and science as well as men do. That feminism would certainly have you believe that they can. I don't really know what the truth is behind that, but certainly there are women who out there who understand things in math and science very well and do some amazing things. Um, you know, whether or not there's any general trend there, I don't know. But it certainly seems to me like women can understand any high-level complex subject as well as men can. I don't see any evidence to disprove that. And I'm about to sneeze here. And women deserve the rights that they have. If it wasn't for feminism, women wouldn't have the right to vote. To not let women vote would be stupid. What else did not, and to expect women to remain in the home, to be, just housekeepers and not have any ambitions, to do, follow intellectual pursuits and to, achieve great things, I think would be a mistake. So, those parts of feminism I understand, and I do promote equality of the sexes. Generally, generally equality of the sexes is something to be strived for, I think. But, and there's big buts here. There's a lot of areas in feminism where it's harder to take certain aspects of feminism seriously. Now, first of all, I'll start with something. I'll say one more thing that I think one area that's sort of a gray area is the whole equal pay for equal work type of thing. Women making 77 cents on the dollar. Now, there may be some amount of discrimination that plays a factor in this discrepancy, but I know one of the large factors that's frequently mentioned is that women end up needing to take time off for childbirth to take care of their kids, and they fall behind during that period, and it's stressful. I mean, and the truth of the matter is, it's not fair to women that they have to carry the kids. It's just that's nature. Nature is woman has to carry the kids, and I guess the equal pay. I mean, if most of that wage discrepancy comes down to the inconvenience and time drain and the demands placed on the mother through child rearing, then I suppose you could make a case for, at the very least, extended time for maternity, for what is it called, family leave, so that a mother has at least several years to raise the child. Now, the truth of the matter, that whole situation is, once you start, making more money for family leave, the money's coming from somewhere. if it's paid for by the government, it's coming from taxes, which are obviously paid more by men than women because, as we said, men make more money per hour, more money for the same time of work than women do. So it's like one way or the other. It's men have to pay to give women extra maternity leave. It's either through taxes, not that women don't pay taxes, they do, but because they're making less money than men are, they're paying less of the taxes on a general scale. Or you have policies implemented by the government. This is the more controversial one, where women are guaranteed the same amount of money as a man, or they're guaranteed maternity leave. Well, if a woman is guaranteed maternity leave for an extended period of time, that money has to come from somewhere, and that money will be coming from, generally that money will be coming from men because the men are making more. If you're going to set aside more money for women specifically, then you're getting less money for men. Now, maybe you could say, well, maybe maternity leave should be for both parents, in which case it wouldn't matter, And I think I'm for that, that maternity leave should include both parents, and it should be just a thing we pay for, where we agree as men and women to subsidize in order for a child to be raised properly and not just be raised by a nanny. So that doesn't have to be a feminist thing, maternity leave or family leave should be something that both sexes generally support. And I think I do support that. I support the idea of extended family leave because I don't think it's a great situation to have kids being raised by nannies all the time. It's important for kids to form a bond with their parents, and their parents, by nature should be spending a decent amount of time with their children within their formative early years. I don't know if that's their formative years, but at least in their, your earliest experiences, you should have a lot of time with your parents. So, I'm all for, extended family leave time for both men and women. When you start talking about, specifically maternity leave without men being included, well, women generally do more of the work, so I suppose it would make sense they would get a little more of the money, But when you start talking about, equal pay clauses and things like that, where, a woman has to be making the same amount of money as a man, obviously if they're doing the same job and putting in the same amount of work, that makes sense. But if they are held back, if their work is limited by having to take care of kids, it does seem a little unfair to men to dock their pay, or not dock their pay, but to like I said, the money all goes into a pie. And if you're giving, if you're making it a point to pay women more, despite the fact that they're putting less time in, or, haven't had the opportunity to develop themselves as much, it's a little bit harder for men to swallow, except for the fact that women have no choice. They have to carry the child for 9 months, So even on that one, this one's a little more controversial, but I feel like even on that one, just because women aren't given the choice of whether or not to carry the baby, there should be some amount of, men should be fairly comfortable with the idea that they should get a little more, a little extra of the pie, of the profit pie, in order to raise a child in a way that benefits society in general. Because I think that having your parents around, especially your mother, would be a benefit to society in the long run. So that one's tricky. I don't even know exactly 100% how I feel about that one, but I do feel like at the very least I can say that I would have a hard time, I think, with legislation that guarantees women the same amount of money if they're not doing the same amount of work. If they're doing the same work, exactly the same work, the exact same number of hours at the exact same level of expertise, then yes, absolutely, 100% they deserve exactly the same as what men are making. But even if they're held back from being able to do that by maternity, it's trickier there. That's something I won't even really venture as to what I feel about that. But certainly I feel like more family leave for both the mother and the father is warranted, so that children can be raised properly. So that's the first thing I'll talk about. one of the main points that feminists bring up, and I don't have a major problem with that. But I do have a major problem with is, I guess is the idea. This is a common thing where women want all the benefits that men have without the same responsibilities, and this is where I have an issue. For example, when it comes to the dating world, or women don't want to have to be the ones to approach men. They might say that they approach men, and some do. It's not like it never happens. But generally, men are expected to put forth the effort. Men are expected to approach. Men are expected to, women is essentially the woman chooses. I made a post on one of my other videos saying I mentioned this. The woman generally chooses, just like it is in nature. More often than not, the woman chooses, not the man. And someone pointed out, well, men who are men who are doing well, they get to choose. But I think that's bad logic, because the reason why the men who are, the alpha males, or the whatever you want to call them, the high status men, they only have that option to choose because they have so many women interested in them. But that is, the exception and not the rule. Most men have to pursue women. Most men don't have women throwing themselves at them. It's a very small percentage of men who have their pick. Successful, attractive, intelligent men. They're few and far between. And women, on the other hand, you don't have to be particularly attractive to be approached by a man. Women get approached by men all the time. But this sort of takes me to another thing that I don't think that women understand. Or actually, maybe that I shouldn't say that women don't understand, but basically it's this point. In the end, women have higher expectations for their potential mate than men have for their potential mate. Now, women often accuse men of being shallow. Well, a lot of men are shallow. And not universally shallow across the board. There are a lot of men who think a personality is just as important, sometimes even more important than looks. It's, maybe you'd probably say most men are very concerned about how a woman looks, how attractive they are. So I'm not going to try to pretend that there's all these saints walking around. That aren't going to sleep with a gorgeous woman. But I think that's one of the things where women and men see things differently. Because women see, men as being shallow because, they want to sleep with beautiful women. And that's, when men want to settle down with a woman, then personality matters more. But when they just want to sleep with a woman, then looks matter more, if you're settling down with a woman, you're deciding to be with this person for the rest of your life. It's not that looks don't matter on that front, they do. But it's almost like men want both looks and personality when they're deciding to settle down with somebody. And a lot of times, for a lot of men, I think personality is almost more important than the looks are when it comes to settling down. But generally, I think most men want looks and personality when they're settling down. And when they're not settling down, when they're just looking to sleep around, they'll sleep around with, many levels of women. You don't have to be that attractive for a lot of men. Me personally, I'm not like that. I don't want to sleep with less attractive women. But less attractive girls have opportunities to sleep with very good-looking men all the time. This kind of went off the rails a little bit as far as where I'm going. Basically, I don't think women understand the benefit of being able to sleep with guys that are better looking than they are. Unattractive women have opportunities to sleep with better looking men because So many men just want to sleep with anybody. For men, I think there's one thing that women don't understand. This is where our value systems clash. Men, care about having sex, more than women do. You know, it's not that women don't appreciate having sex; they do, but it's a much bigger priority for men. Everything is defined for men by who you can have sex with. This is the end goal for men. Is the person I'm sleeping with attractive, and are they, and what's their personality like? Do we like their personality? And the reason why women can't understand that these are the only two things, I guess they can't understand these are the only two things we value. And the number one thing we value is just the looks alone, and so they call us shallow. It's not that it's just the looks, but the looks are a big part of it, and so they call us shallow. Well, it's not just looks. Obviously, men want looks and attractiveness, but women can't understand the importance of looks, because for them, even though looks are very important for women also, women have more buttons to push than men do, as far as what makes for attraction. There's two things that men find attractive: looks and personality. Anything beyond that is kind of gravy. We don't care that much, as long as someone looks good and it's not, their company is enjoyable. We want to sleep with them. Even if they look good alone and their company isn't enjoyable, we want to sleep with them. I think that's where we get called shallow. But it's not like that isn't true for women. Women will sleep with guys who look good and have crap personalities. This happens quite a bit. So women, I think, are just as shallow as men. For them to call us shallow and then not own up to being shallow themselves is a little silly. Both women and men can often be shallow. Not all women and men are shallow, but often we are. The difference is women have extra requirements. If you're just good looking, when a woman is young, that's really mostly enough. As long as you're good looking for a woman, it's kind of like men. Good looking personality. When you're young as a woman, a good looking personality are the two main requirements. But it's not just that. It's also how much money you make, and that's where the big difference is. Men don't care how much money you make as a woman. If you're attractive and you have a good personality, that's you've hit all the boxes. But for a woman, it's not just about your looks and your personality, but it's also about how much money do you make and where do you stand in society. Are you a respected member of the community? Or are you considered a lowlife? Are you considered a loser by society? Status and wealth are important to women also. It adds a whole other dimension to what they're looking for. And, what that means is guys like me, I was a fairly good-looking guy when I was younger. I'm losing it real fast, as you can tell. I haven't really been keeping myself very well groomed, but that's because I don't really care. I'm not really looking right now, but when I was younger, I was a good-looking guy, and I think I was a nice guy. Now, some women don't believe that nice guys exist, and I think the reason why women don't think nice guys exist is because they automatically assume that a guy who is of low status and considered lower valued, considered a loser by society, is in some way a bad person. That you can't be a good person if you're irresponsible. That you can't be a good person if you don't act like a man. That you don't go out and whatever. You're not a good person if you're not being productive. You're not a good person if you're not earning a good salary. I think a lot of women think that men who don't earn a lot of money are, seriously flawed or not worthy of their love. And, I know that I'm a good person. I'm not perfect. I certainly don't take a lot of, maybe I need to work on my personal responsibility. I need to work on my ability to provide for myself consistently. But that doesn't make me a bad person. I'm a good person. Now, women will say I don't exist. There are no good guys. I'm one of the good guys. I don't want to abuse women. I don't catcall or do any of those things. I treat women with respect. I have two sisters and a mother. Uh, you know, I know how to treat women with respect. I have a niece. I love my niece. I treat her like, as I treat all the women in my family with respect and love. Um, you know, Women think guys are only out to get in their pants. That's not true. I'm a guy who actively, I had opportunities to get in women's pants, and I said I wasn't interested. You know why? Because I think it's important to know somebody before you sleep with them. For me, sex is an important thing that should only be done with somebody who you feel a strong connection to. This is not a popular opinion, especially among women. Women these days seem to be, a lot of feminist women are, all about sleeping around when they're younger and not wanting to be called sluts for it, not wanting to be shamed for it. Want to be able to sleep with whoever they want. They don't feel like that's being irresponsible at all, even though there are consequences to sleeping around. But between disease, obviously you can use protection, but that doesn't always get done, obviously, because there's lots of disease floating around out there. Believe me, I've heard about it, especially herpes, which I believe something like 50% of the population has, or something. I don't know, maybe not that much, but quite a bit. There's unwanted pregnancy. There's actual rape, and then there's accused rape. There's hurt feelings. There's, drama up the wazoo. There's jealousy. There's anger. There's, people are killed over these things, I don't think sex is to be taken lightly, personally. I'm more conservative in that way. So many people I hear, say, oh, well, I'm fiscally, what do they say? I'm socially liberal, but fiscally conservative. Well, I'm the opposite, I'm socially on the conservative side and fiscally more on the liberal side. Not too many people like me out there. Most of the people I meet, more liberal socially. I hate it when people say that they're socially liberal and then fiscally conservative, because it's pretty much the opposite of what I think. But anyway, that's not to say that I don't believe in controlling how you spend your money. I believe everything should be paid for. I don't think people should spend willy-nilly. You should, people. I do feel like a lot of times, people propose that money is spent that isn't really there. But this is something that happens both among Republicans and Democrats. To really call it liberal or conservative at this point is probably not a great name. Trump, with his mega tax cuts, was just as fiscally irresponsible as, I don't know, a lot of the deficit spending we've seen by, Democrats in the past. And by the way, Bill Clinton did balance the budget at one point, so how conservative is being fiscally conservative, really? Anyway, tangent. Let's not talk about that right now, but the point I'm making is, I'm trying to remember where I was. So yeah, women have a very carefree attitude about sex. Well, at least a lot of, not women in general. I shouldn't say these things. I always say things in general that gets me in trouble. But feminists, a lot of feminists, they want to sleep around. They don't want to be judged for it. And they don't like it when men have expectations that women should be, not sleep around so much. That they should be loyal to a man. They don't like when a man wants a woman to, they don't like it when a woman is being judged for having had a lot of partners. But when you look at it from somebody's perspective like me, and I'm saying, why is that so unreasonable? Why is it so unreasonable for me not to want to sleep with somebody who's been around the block? Because, like I say, there are consequences that come with that. And, I don't want a disease. And I believe that it's important to know somebody before you become intimate with them. But you see, I was denied opportunities in my life. I would have liked to, there's a number of women I would have liked to have gotten to know before I slept with them, but they never gave me the chance to get to know them because they assumed that because I didn't show interest in them in a sexual way within the first several meetings that I wasn't interested. And that's not true. But it's because women have this expectation that, and this goes back to what I was saying earlier, that men are the pursuers. That if a man doesn't make a move to get you into bed within the first, couple of meetings, dates, whatever you want to say, that they're not interested, or that they're weak-minded, because what they really want is just to sleep with you, and if they're not making that move, it just means, oh, well, they don't have the cojones to actually make the move, or they're not really manly, because a real man would sleep with somebody, within a couple of days, because that's what they really want, and that's just not true. And it comes back to this idea, like, regardless of the fact that women want things to be equal, they expect the man to do the heavy lifting. They want the man to be the one to initiate, sex. And, it puts all the pressure on the men. They don't want the responsibility of having to put themselves out there and to risk that a man might reject them. And they don't have the, emotional strength to deal with it the way a man does when they're rejected. Women have a hard time with rejection. Men are supposed to be okay with rejection. We're supposed to get over it and move on. But that's not really living up to a feminist ideal. If you're a true feminist, you put yourself on the line as much as a man puts yourself on the line. You don't always require that a man doesn't. And if you're a true feminist, I think if you're a true feminist, you don't expect a man to make a move on you within the first few dates. You come to the realization that every man has their own approach to sex, and that all men, are not, just because a man doesn't show interest in you doesn't mean he doesn't want to sleep with you. And you should have some amount of patience as a woman if you think the man is a good man and you like his personality, to say, well, maybe he doesn't want to sleep with me now, but you know what? I can wait. I can be patient. Sex doesn't always have to be a frivolous thing, and I think women want sex to be a frivolous thing a lot, especially with men they are attracted to. They don't want to wait. They don't want to put in time. They don't want to feel like they have to pursue a man because they think that that's below them. They think that it's the man's job to pursue them. They don't want to put in extra time. So this is one of the problems I have. If women want equality, then they should be willing to understand that it has to go both ways. And especially this is the case with who's pursuing who, and it's also the case with money. If a woman is interested in a man, it shouldn't matter how much money he has. If a woman wants to see things, if a woman wants to operate the way a man does in the world, then she should be willing to pay the way. It should not be a requirement that the man earns any amount of money whatsoever. Because men throughout history, for many, many years, have been willing to pay the way for women. They've been willing to go do the job, in exchange for the woman staying home and doing the cleaning, cooking, and whatever. But if women want to go out there and do the job like men are doing, then it should work the other way around. Men have shouldered the load for many, many years. And, not to say that women should shoulder the load entirely, but there should be some amount of balance. You should have some relationships where, the woman, maybe, in these days, men and women both have to work so much of the time that it's kind of, but it does seem like there's, it does seem like a lot of women are not comfortable in a position where they're out earning their husbands significantly. It does seem like on some level that women are more content in relationships where the man is earning more money. Um, you know, and I think it's because there is a natural desire to, most feminists would not admit this, but I think there's a natural desire by women to kind of, want to see their man as their own personal hero. And I think it's hard for women to see men as their hero when they're not making a lot of money and therefore not well regarded. Not even a lot of money, but not making, even, close to the lion's share of the money, or at least, fairly close to the same salary. And it's hard for women to respect a man when he isn't respected by society at large. And I think that's where, women have to step it up a little bit. Feminists specifically have to step it up a little bit, Men see no problem with, earning more money than the woman they're with. For us, money, status, not an issue. We don't care if a woman is a high achiever or not particularly. I mean, we're not against it. I'm not against it personally. I think it's fine if a woman, wants to achieve things and do great things. That's fine. But, I'm not going to make any decisions about who I'm interested in or attracted to by how much money they're making. I'm not going to judge a woman for making money, but I'm also not going to require that she makes money. But this is where there's a difference. Women do not want to be with a deadbeat, a loser. But it's not framed the same way with men. We don't see women who don't make a lot of money as deadbeats or losers. We see them as, we look at them for their looks. Two things: looks and personality. If they have both, that's all we need. But women conflate a man's worth. They add the two other things of status and wealth. They have the looks and personality too, but they add status and wealth. And if feminists want to be taken seriously, then these two have to go. And it has to be like, sorry, I don't mean to be flipping you guys off, but it has to be, you have to see things the same way as men. It should be about looks and personality first. Money and status, that should not be a concern anymore. Because that's what it means to be, to take the responsibility. The responsibility is, about, no longer requiring. Where do those two extra requirements come from? Status and wealth shouldn't be important to feminists. Feminists should be fine, paying the way and letting the man stay home, do the housework, take care of the kids, And obviously the man has to give back a little bit. The man has to be willing to do those things, You can't expect a man to. That's the thing. I could say you can't expect a man to sit back and let the woman take care of everything. But that's how some relationships go the other way around, Not when there's kids involved. Usually when there's kids involved, the woman takes the lion's share of the duties with the kids. But when there's no kids involved, many men are willing to take care of a woman and have her just stay home and do whatever the hell she wants, or And you very, very, very rarely see that the other way. Women don't want a deadbeat guy around. And, it's just even the classification of a deadbeat. If a guy's with a beautiful woman and all she wants to do is, live off of his money, and that's considered an arrangement that's acceptable. But for some reason, that's not an acceptable arrangement the other way around. Why is that? Doesn't make sense to me. That's not to say that, I understand if women want, their man to make a similar amount of money. But it should be okay if the man's making, minimum wage, as long as the guy's putting in an effort, A guy should be, it's like, we know for a fact that men who are making minimum wage are not going to be as successful. Like I said, I was a fairly good-looking guy. I've been making minimum wage most of my life. And guess what? women were not interested. But minimum wage should be all that's necessary. You know, as long as you're putting in an effort, as long as you're putting in work, that should be it. But no, you know, guys like me, guys who've earned minimum wage their whole life, we're losers. You know, we don't have the status, we don't have the wealth that women are looking for in a man. So if you're gonna be, you know, if you're gonna be real about feminism, those kind of expectations have to die. I don't blame you for wanting us to have a job. That much I can get. You know, you don't want to be working and seeing your man not working. Although again, like I said, there have been many situations where a man works and a woman doesn't work, and that's deemed acceptable by society, and not the other way around. So immediately that whole judgment should be gone if you really truly believe in feminism. Um, but you know, on the other side of it, you know, a woman should be perfectly happy with a man if she's earning well more than he is. And I'm not to say that that doesn't exist. You know, actually, you know, I have some family who are in that situation, and it works for them just fine. But it's much fewer and farther between you see that kind of thing than the other situation where a man gets dumped or a man isn't given a chance because he's a minimum wage earner, because he's a low status guy. That's not living up. When those kind of decisions are made, when men like me are rejected because of low status, as long as, you know, even if they are working, if they're putting forth a good effort to at least earn minimum wage, you know, to go out and do a job every day, it's not fair. That's not real feminism. You know, put your money where your mouth is, ladies. You can talk about it, but you gotta live it. And the other thing, there's one other thing I wanted to talk about, and that is I think feminists need to understand, you know, feminists oftentimes, I've made this point with my incel video, they want men, they think that, I guess they don't understand, you know, women are looking for different things than men generally. Women are looking for sex like men are, but they're also looking for a relationship more so than men. Men are not generally looking for commitment. Women are looking for commitment more often. And because of that reason, I think, you know, women don't understand what they have that men don't have. What women have that men don't have is they have the opportunity to sleep with the opposite sex, you know, a lot. And I don't think they understand what happens to a man when he doesn't have that opportunity. You know, women think that being married to a successful man, or being whatever, not necessarily married, but, you know, having a boyfriend or husband who is successful, that's sort of their ultimate goal. Somebody with, you know, who has a certain status. Basically the old, you know, I mean, I hate to say it, but, you know, there is some very small truth to the whole women are whores thing. You know, I mean, I'm not trying to say women are whores, but every woman has a little bit of a whore in her. You know, you know, to some extent, women are not going to be pleased with, as I said before. You know, it's not that they're whores, but if you're not paying some of your own way, then women are not interested. That goes back to what I'm saying before, but you know, so I think women get angry that there aren't more men who are, you know, I guess, you know, that are marrying types, and by marrying types that means men who are fairly high status and who are willing to make a commitment. And women get angry at men who are these attractive men who are high status men because they refuse to commit. And so there's a resentment there. That's where the battle of sexes comes from on that side. You know, a lot of women aren't lucky enough to find a high status man. It's hard to find a high status man that's willing to commit because they have, as I mentioned well earlier in this video, lots of options. They have lots of women that are interested, and they want to make sure that, you know, with so many options, they want to make sure that when they do settle down, the woman they choose is, you know, is worthy of their efforts, I suppose. And so women are bitter about this because it's hard to capture a man who's high status. And they blame all men for this, and they especially look down on low status males when they should be looking down on the high status males. The high status males are the ones that are unwilling to commit. But they look down on low status males, I think, because they're getting hit on by, there's a lot more of low status males than there are of high status males. And I think they get angry at low status males, especially because they feel like they feel that we're not even worthy to. I feel that low status males are not worthy to even approach a woman, to even be attracted to a woman. They feel like it's an insult to their character that a man who isn't earning, who isn't well respected by society, thinks he even has a chance with a woman. I think that's why women, act like they don't like catcalls. They act like they don't like the attention they get, but really, it's not 100% true. Women don't like the catcalls and the extra attention they get from low status men. They like the attention they get from high status men, most of them, more often than not. It's kind of the old Trump line, grab them by the you-know-what. That's a little forward, and obviously a woman who you meet for the first time is not going to go for that easily. Not always anyway. A lot of the bimbos will, but the point of that statement, there is some truth to that statement, in that you can get away with being very forward if you're a high status male, but you do not get away with being forward as a low status male. And so low status males are resented, and they're ridiculed, made fun of, for thinking, even, for insulting them by thinking, oh, well, you think you have a chance. And so, it's, I don't think girls are going to mind a catcall from a guy in a movie star in a Lamborghini, You got a well-known movie star coming onto you from a Lamborghini. How many girls are going to complain about that, really? Most girls are going to be like, oh, let me take a ride in your Lamborghini to your mansion, and we'll go swimming, and then screw and whatever. That's the simple truth of it. High status males get away with a lot. Low status males get away with nothing. And so there's a lot of resentment of low status males because, like I said, how dare they? Women think, how dare these men think that they have a chance with me? They're not even close. I'm worth more than that. That's what they think. Even though, why do they think that? If you're a feminist, then what's wrong with a low status male? Why do you feel like you're worth more than that? Why are you only judging the man based on his status and how much money he's earning? Why can't a low status male expect to have a chance with a woman? If you're a true feminist, then it shouldn't matter that he's a low status male. What should matter is his personality and his looks. The same way that's what matters to men. And what women really don't understand is that while they're resentful of low status males for daring to think that we should have a chance with women, and they're angry with men in general for not being willing to commit, especially they'll be angry with, they're angry with low status males for daring to think that they have a chance with the woman because it's an insult to their pride, and they're annoyed with high status males because they have so many options that they're understandably don't want to settle down until they know they've got the best, they've picked the best option of the many that are given to them. And so that's where the resentment of men comes from women. It's a combination of those two things. And the resentment from men comes from the fact that, as I said, women are the choosers, and I think that's the real thing to focus on here, is that women are looking for love from a high status male, or at least a male who is not a quote-unquote lowlife, who's not irresponsible, who's not, whatever. And men are just looking for love, period. We don't have the same level of expectation on the type of love we're getting. We just want love. So, and I don't think women understand that. We look at women, and it's the same thing for men. We look at women and we say, well, our value system is, having sex. For us, if you have sex with us, you validate us. This is really, I should have gotten around to this a lot sooner, but this is the main point of the video. For men, it's a woman's willingness to have sex with you that validates your worth in the world. More women are willing to have sex with you, especially the more attractive women who are willing to have sex with you, the more worthy you feel. Society has made it out that any man who can sleep with an attractive woman or has the ability to attract a beautiful woman is more worthy than one who can't. So when a man can't sleep with beautiful women, or any women at all, a lot of the time, it's deeply unsatisfying. It's a deep blow to one's self-esteem, and we have a hard time dealing with that. A lot of men have a really hard time dealing with that. I actually feel like have dealt with it better than a lot of these men who have never slept with anybody. A lot of these men who've never slept with anybody, they're made insane by the fact that they don't sleep with anybody, and they do crazy things. They shoot people. They're really angry, really bitter, say a lot of really hostile, negative, hurtful things. They actively try to ruin women's lives because they see that women have, through their decision making, through their decision of a mate, have decided that these men are scum. And through these women's decisions that these men are scum and not worthy of their time, that's what men come to believe. They come to believe that women don't want them, and they end up hating women. It leads to a lot of resentment, and that resentment leads to a lot of insane behavior. Because as a man, if you're not getting love, if you're not getting offers to sleep with another woman, then you feel worthless, and that lack of self-esteem drives you to do crazy things a lot of the time. Now, all my crazy behaviors from this lack of attention or lack of women who are attracted to me has led to self-destructive behaviors. There's a few things that maybe some externalities of my behaviors that are a detriment to those around me, but it's not nearly to the effect that some of these men are. Most of my crazy from not having women be attracted to me is only hurting myself, not really hurting those around me. But a lot of these men actively want to hurt people around them based on their lack of love from the opposite sex, and that's a sad thing. It's sad because, for one, that they have to feel this way, that they're made to feel like nothing because they don't have status and they don't have wealth, and they may be good people, but women are not interested. Or maybe women are not interested because, like I said before, they're not willing to make the first move. They're not willing to man up, that's. And I don't think women understand how hard it is for a man to go through life. Women, like I say, their resentment comes from not being able to be with a man who is high status. And so they just assume, I guess, that well, they're not getting what they want. They're not getting the perfect guy, the Mr. Right, to settle down with. But what they don't understand is, from a man's perspective, at least a woman is still desired. Regardless of whether they're settling down with Mr. They have an opportunity to settle down with Mr. Right or not. They still have, and you have to understand that just from a purely biological perspective, people want to be wanted. and that men who don't get love from the opposite sex suffer in ways that women could not possibly understand. It's hard for a woman to understand what it's like to not be wanted because, like I said earlier, men want women, even if they're unattractive. They have opportunities to at least sleep with a man, and I think they take those opportunities for granted. Men who are not wanted by women don't even have those fundamental experiences of being touched by somebody, being held by somebody, being desired by somebody. They don't get the ego boost that comes with that either, and it takes a toll on men's lives. Men who are unloved live shorter periods of time, and I think they're missing out on a fundamental experience of life, which is to be loved and to be cherished. Most women at least get a taste of that, because as I said, men want women regardless. A woman can always have sex if she wants. A man can't always have sex if he wants. That's the point. I mean, again, there are exceptions to these rules. There are some women that these rules. There's some women that are so unattractive or so repulsive for one reason or another that they don't want to be touched, and those women do understand what it's like for men, but there are vastly more men who are not desired by women than there are women who are not desired by men. And I don't think women have any idea how hard it is to be a man who's not desired. And I think women think that it's the same as not being desired by a high status man or by a man of a certain caliber that's not considered a loser. And I'm here to tell you, it's not the same. It's harder. It's a lot harder. That's my opinion. I can't, I don't know that because I'm not a woman, but, I have somebody I know very closely. I'm not going to name names, but it's a woman who, is upset that she can't find that perfect man, that men don't want to settle down with her. That especially not even that men don't want to settle down with her. That's the joke of the whole thing, is that there have been men who would be perfectly willing to marry her, settle down with her, but why are they not good enough? Because they're not high status men. They're just not good enough for her, and she finds it an insult. She can't find a good high status man who's interested in her, and all she sees are those men who were high status that decided that she wasn't good enough. And for her, that is a reason to be miserable and to be depressed. I'm sure I'm speaking for a lot of women out there. There's a lot of women out there who are frustrated that they're always the girl that gets screwed but doesn't get, to land the big fish, And, women have a chance with guys of lesser status, but that's not what they're interested in. They want guys who have reached a certain threshold of wealth and status. It's not always, wealthy, but it's not deadbeat. It's not minimum wage more often than not. Obviously there are exceptions to that, but very few. And so this person is frustrated in her life, and very depressed, and thinks that things couldn't be worse. But as bad as things are, and I feel bad for the person because, I think they deserve better. I think they do deserve to be with somebody who appreciates them. And, but at the same time, this girl does deserve to be with somebody who appreciates them, but their expectations are just, are unreasonably high for a feminist. If you're a true feminist, then you should be happy with any man who really loves you and cherishes you regardless of his status or his, income. As long as the man's putting out an effort, that's a true feminist would be happy with the man who's just putting out the effort. But her suffering, as bad as she thinks it is nothing compared to men who are never loved by a woman. And this is something that women should understand. You have no idea, the frustration. And that's why when women don't get the man that they're looking for, they're depressed. But when men don't get the women, or sorry, women don't get, when men who are low status don't get any women at all, they go beyond depressed to being insane a lot of the time. And the insanity plays out in a lot of different ways. And I'll take depression over insanity personally. So yeah, if there's a lesson to feminists, that's my lesson. Realize that if you're going to have high standards for how you want to be treated by men, then you have to have high standards for yourselves in terms of not being so picky, not having such high expectations, and most importantly, instead of judging us on 4 characteristics: wealth, status. These two are kind of related, but you can have status without wealth, and you can have wealth without status. It's possible, but wealth, status, looks, and personality. If you want to be real feminist, you get rid of the wealth and the status, and you just focus on looks and personality the way men do. And then I'll start taking feminists seriously when they start behaving that way. I mean, not to say that I don't take feminists seriously. Just the last thing I'll say, as I mentioned earlier in this video, there's a lot of parts of feminism I like. I made clear what those are. That's fine, but back up every part of your philosophy. Don't pick and choose. Don't cherry pick what you want. Don't expect to be treated a certain way and not be willing to put in a little bit of the effort to understand the sacrifices that men make. Start making those same sacrifices, and then we'll always take you seriously.